You're listening to Elevate, the official podcast of Elite Agent magazine for real estate industry sales professionals, property managers and leaders. Each episode we bring you behind the scenes coaching, news analysis, exclusive interviews, technology and more to help you list more, sell more and elevate your results. To subscribe to the magazine, visit eliteagent.com.au/subscribe. Here is your host, Samantha McLean.
Hey, Samantha McLean from Elite Agent magazine, proud to bring you our weekly news recap for the week of the 13th of October. Apart from myself and Mark this week, we have a couple of guests in the office who, I guess this is a little bit like James Corden on Carpool Karaoke, who has celebrities in to help him get to work. This time we have a couple of celebrities in to help us get through the news. So I'd like to welcome Michael Carter from Raine Horne Penrith.
Hey guys, how are you?
And Lukas Pedder, the King of Mildura from Elders Mildura.
Great to be here after a long trip.
The King of Mildura.
Yeah. So if you recognise the names, these guys were part of our Transform Super 6 for 2017. So before we sort of get down to the news, let's have a bit of a chat about where you guys are up to. What have you been doing in the last few months since Transform ended, since the excitement of Transform ended?
Well, for me, really, I mean, since Transform ended, my business really started taking off, which was fantastic because through all the mentors and coaches and through that now I've been able to take on a lot, and I found my business is slowly but surely growing, and to the point now I'm actually hiring another person into my team, which is fantastic.
Wow.
Also really the bonds and connections which I made from Transform, like with Lukas, we speak like once or twice a week still.
Yeah.
Just putting ideas off each other. We're very similar in the mindset to how we think about real estate, so it's really good to have those relationships which I never had before Transform.
Yeah, and you're in town, Lukas, for Gavin Rubenstein's event.
Yeah.
So
I love going to trainings and that sort of stuff. But yeah, my journey from Transform was a bit of a whirlwind storm, because I was still, I'd say, fairly new in the industry, not even a year at that time, and where I was at after I've sort of probably slowed down over the last couple of months and really taken the time to put structures in place, because everything was very much random sort of actions, and I've had the fortunate that my girlfriend, she's in the business as well. She's helped me as a part-time, is my assistant and does all the paperwork.
Keeping it in the family.
Yeah, keeping it in the family, and she does it. She sort of manages my back end, and for the last month we've really just got all these systems down packed and rolling them out, and we're now starting to see after a month and a half the results of that. Well, I'd say slow time where we're focusing on the business that's going to future-proof it.
yeah, and what do you think has made the real difference?
For me, it was prospecting. I think that's the big key to real estate. I know it was a big realisation I made throughout the process, is how simple real estate actually can be. And it really comes down to three things for me, which is make the calls to buyers, sellers, whoever, the flyers and door knocks, and which is in my area in the regional town still very prevalent. It's just being out in front of people, and from there the rest sort of can get managed. But the systems was around the prospecting and sort of the trail and the follow-up process of when to follow up with people. And that's really the big thing. And then secondly was why we're doing all this. That was a big thing. As soon as I know why I'm doing something, I can do it. And I understand that this is an ongoing sort of thing, because before it was just on my first day of real estate, I asked the sales manager at the time what he told me to door knock, and I said, what do I say? And he said, you'll figure it out.
Yeah, as soon as you get to the front door, I mean,
I actually remember the audition video that you had for Transform. You said, I'm a city boy and I've come to the country. What do I know about farms?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that sort of thing. But now I'm starting to get it. I'm selling 16 acres.
Yeah, I was going to say, for a city boy, you're doing things like clearing sales now, which not everybody knows about. So tell us a bit about what a clearing sale is.
So a clearing sale is usually on farms or sort of larger properties. We do it on a couple of smaller properties as well, but when, say, somebody sold their property, or they've got a lot of old sort of farming equipment they don't need anymore, they get us in to sell it off. So it's like an auction. They set up all the different little items, whether it be just pots and pans, microwaves, forks, little glass canisters, up to massive tractors that are worth over $250,000 and that sort of stuff.
Wow.
And yeah, so it's a really big day where, like we had one yesterday where about 200 and something people attended, plus we had over 230 registered bidded.
And how many lots were in that? Like, sort of how many piles of stuff were you actually auctioning off?
Yesterday was, I'd say, a small one because there was a lot of bigger lots, but we had about 300 lots there.
300 lots?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's literally everything must go.
Yeah, it's pretty much everything. I think we didn't sell 3 of the smaller lots, and then most of the stuff doesn't have, or sometimes doesn't have reserve, but some of the bigger tractors, like if they're worth 250,000, well, you're not going to just give them away, so they've got reserve prices. And I think a couple there were passed in and sort of are dealing privately with the highest bidder. That's so similar sort of an auction sort of thing. Like we had 8 people there yesterday to run this.
On what you call as a small...
Day.
It was a small day, but the items were big.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Amazing.
That's very cool.
We should get out there one day, Sammy.
I definitely think we should get down to Mildura one day. We've been promising to for ages.
So it's in the middle of everywhere. 4 hours to the closest city.
All right, so let's get to the news, fellas. This weekend, well, actually, this is Mark's department, so Department of Auctions.
Yeah, look, not much change over last week. 2,300 properties going to auction in the combined capital cities. 2,318 last week, so it's pretty much the same. The clearance rate's down slightly from last week. So last week it was 66.3, and this week's actually gone down to 64.4. So a bit of a drop there, but again, I think it's indicative of where the market is at the moment.
Mm. How are you guys finding the market? Like, particularly you're in Sydney, Michael. So how are you finding your market right now?
I find our market at the moment, I think it's just flattened. To be honest with you, I mean, we get asked that multiple times a day. How's the market? Has it gone down? Is it going up?
Mm.
I think it's one of those things where the market itself is at a point now where it's evened out and it's an equal playing field for buyers and sellers.
Yeah.
There was that long time in Sydney where the market was just booming. It kept going up and up and up and up. And I think certain areas have adapted to this new market quicker than others and conditioned the actual market. In our area, I'm still finding that properties are selling pretty well. The right buyer to the right seller, it does sell.
Yeah.
As long as you are upfront with the vendor as well. Because a lot of vendors, when they come and see an agent, they're expecting them to know what's going on, and they're always a lot more positive with the market. They've seen properties sell in their area which sold a year ago for big prices, and they're like, we would love to get the same price, but you just got to be upfront with them. The transparency is key. I think a lot of agents in our area, which is the Penrith and Western Sydney area, are adapting to that new market. And I think that's why we're actually getting good results. But in saying that, we're not really an auction-based area as well. It's very limited in auctions in our area. I think there's only like 1 or 2 in the Penrith region a week.
Yeah.
Right.
So we've never adapted to the auctions. It's always been private treaty, price.
Do you see that changing at all?
A lot of people about 2 or 3 years ago, when I first started getting to it, were really trying to push the auctions in the area or doing a price guide, then auction if not sold prior.
Yeah.
And that didn't really go too well. We're finding that people in our area just want that transparency of here's a price guide, there it is, and then a few buyers might want the property, and then it'll be more of a private auction, as we call a Dutch auction, to get the best price possible. Out there, they were very accustomed to that private treaty. In the auction, it was like we had to wait while they could buy something right away.
Yeah, it is definitely still interesting in different markets across Australia. I mean, well, Perth, for example, has flattened out a bit too. You know, it was sort of going down a bit. Nikki was kind of struggling a bit over there. I mean, she seems to be moving quite a few at the moment, which is excellent. But there is an agent over in Perth who is holding a 24-hour open home this weekend. So I'm not sure if you heard about that one.
It's a lot of multi-million-dollar properties. I think they're saying that the floor plate is 500 square metres of each of these apartments. Anyway, so he's going to be doing a Red Bull challenge, and he's going to be holding a 24-hour open home from 2 p.m. on Saturday afternoon to 2 p.m. Sunday afternoon.
Sometimes you sell big developments, Michael. So what do you think to this 24-hour open home?
I think, to be completely transparent, I think it's a bit too full on. Could you imagine the humans who would be turning up at 2 a.m. to come look at an open home? I mean, come on, I don't think they're going to be looking to buy a property. I think they're looking for somewhere to go have a drink or something at that time.
But that might attract the buyer. I mean, you know, in Perth, you know, you've got to get the buyers. So, you know, like, is it actually a good strategy to attract attention.
It's a great. Either way, it's regardless of if the open home works, we're talking about it now, so it's a great publicity stunt.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And look, I think, Brent, you're going to be having a long slog there, and good luck to the team with keeping you fed, watered, and
good luck over the weekend.
Personal hygiene, mate.
Get the Red Bull crew on board, get them to sponsor, and
it was definitely a good idea.
Actually,
in regards to getting a good marketing campaign out there. Obviously, we're talking about it, but 24 hours, you'll have to have a lot of coffees and Red Bulls, that's for sure.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
Anyway, speaking of attention, I think the real estate agent that has actually gotten the most attention this week has been from Cronulla Real Estate, Melissa, who managed to wrestle the shark out of the pool. But, it was the right thing to do, I guess, because there's a shark in the pool, in a public pool, and obviously, real estate agents just do what's needed, right? Like you walk into an open home and it's messy, so you clean it up.
Get to action.
So the local pool's got a shark in it, then what are you going to do? Obviously, you're going to capture it with your bare hands.
She's the coolest, I'm telling you. I mean, that was the coolest thing, and I'd love to meet her because I think she would be an absolute ball of joy.
Video.
Absolutely good works on that one, doesn't it?
Exactly. Like we had Chris Hanley from First National Byron Bay coaching the Transformers this week on the subject of good works, and it's a big thing of his where, and you guys found it too when we threw you that random act of kindness challenge, is that, if you just go about being a good person, even if you don't have a lot of money or anything like that, because remember we limited you two to, or used the 6 of you to $20.
Yeah.
And Chris's philosophy is that, if you do good work, like, whether it's with your team in the office or whether it's with the community or whatever, then, it will come back to you. Now, it sort of has come back to Melissa in that, you can't buy this sort of publicity. So her Facebook page has got something like 1,000 fans on it, but this video of her rescuing this shark, let's just call it, has had 2,000 likes. It's had 1,500 comments. It's had 1,600 shares.
Wow.
She's been on The Project. She's been on the Today Show. She's you just can't buy that sort of publicity.
And looking at the footage, it's like it was just second nature to her.
And it is. It's just
she's
just doing the thing that she normally does.
I think just giving back to the community which you work in is such an amazing thing. It doesn't have to cost money. I mean, even just mentoring kids at the local school, or just doing drop-offs, or really just being there to support events. You don't have to spend money to be a good person.
Well, you've been doing a bit of that yourself lately, haven't you, Michael, with some of the young boys in the Penrith region? Like you've been sort of doing a bit of mentoring. Tell us a bit about what you've been doing there.
Yeah, so I'm a mentor for an outreach program with the Penrith Panthers, the local rugby league club called Panthers on the Prowl, where we've been working with students at local schools around the area who are at that really crisis point on their life as to what they want to do, whether they want to keep going, and really giving them direction. So for 18 weeks, we spent every Thursday with them for 2 or 3 hours, just sitting down talking about what it's like to be a man, to be an adult, to grow up, and really learning from us, not giving them advice, just telling stories about what we've been through, and making them realise, hey, we all go
they're not
through
alone.
it.
Yeah.
Correct. And then we went on a 3-day camp into the middle of the Blue Mountains to Camp Bidacombe, which we thought was going to be like a scouts park, ended up being a dirt bike park, but we had no dirt bikes. So that was interesting. And we were in a tin shed. And it was one of the best experiences of my life, and it was so rewarding, and just the relationships even that I built from it. Just were amazing, because I met people I never thought I would, but also helped me become a better person. I believe to be a good real estate agent, you've got to be a good person.
Yeah, agreed completely.
Absolutely.
On Sunday, the Victorian government, the Labor government, who've been poring over the Residential Tenancies Act down there, finally revealed what they were thinking about various bits and pieces, because they wanted to make some changes to it for a while.
Yeah, they came out with a few different rulings. There's their opinions about rental bidding apps and dodgy landlords, and bonds being refunded in full in a lot quicker time frame. So it was very much leaning on the side of the tenant.
Yeah.
It felt.
Yeah, it did. I mean, I never liked that use of the word dodgy when you're sort of talking with a collective noun of any description, because it just sort of implies, people say agents are dodgy too, and, we all hate that, right?
So,
Because, most of you are very hardworking, good people that, just get a bad rap. They're sort of saying the Labor government will fix the system and make renting fair for every Victorian. So part of that fairness is, I guess there's a lot of pet owners down there that are actually going yippee because now landlords, part of that whole thing was that landlords
time to
can't
get a bull
refuse
mastiff.
an application for a pet. Yeah, time to go and get hooch. From that movie.
Could you imagine the poor guy who has an investment of 1-bedroom studio and a Great Dane ends up in there?
Yeah.
Not happening.
Well, yeah.
Well,
I mean,
it's two parts. Like again, the tenants, they have people and they want that lifestyle, but on the other side, the landlords, they've spent all this money on a property, and it is in a way it's running a business, having that. So it's almost their freedom being taken away from how they want to run their own.
I think there's always a need
asset.
to have a bit of balance, isn't there?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And I think, interestingly, I know, I've talked to a lot of property managers in my time, from different states, and they all have different views on pets in rental properties. Like some sort of think, it's a good idea, and others don't think it does. And then, you sort of get the insurance companies who've actually done a few studies on them and said, well, if you're insured, it probably doesn't matter so much because you do have the right insurance. And then secondly, we've done the numbers, and PS, pets don't do as much damage as humans do.
No, they actually said that tenants with pets, in the majority of the cases, actually looked after the property better because they felt it was almost like a privilege to be able to have a pet with them in the property, and they treated it as like it was a part of the family.
But then when that idea of the privilege goes away, does that then change the mentality? Well, I'm going to be allowed to have a pet, so then they can do what they want. I think there's a double edge to that.
It really depends on the pet and is it appropriate for the property type?
Yeah.
And then there's got to be distinction on that sort of stuff. But like if you had like a 1-bedroom apartment and you had a cat, like okay,
Cat's a little bit different from a Shetland pony, isn't it?
correct. Like, well, what do you classify as a pet? Is it just a cat or a dog, or is it a monkey? Is it a duck, or is it?
Do you remember that guy we were talking to in America? Like, he was an American. He was out here for one of Joanne Oliveri's events a couple of years ago, and apparently, it's a step further in America in that people can register their animal as a companion that is helpful to their mental health. And you can't refuse that either. And we know that puppies sort of release oxytocin in people's brains and stuff like that. The other thing was the issue of these rent bidding apps, which we kind of haven't dealt with before. So if you're uninitiated on rent bidding apps, there's a few of them out there. There's kind of like Rentberry and Live Offer and Rent Wolf and people like that. Basically what they are is they are the eBay of rental properties. So if we all four of us were competing, we could be competing for a rental property the same way that we're competing at auction for a property, and whoever puts in the highest amount wins, kind of thing. Sarah Bell, who's our EPM editor, she sort of took them all apart. What does this mean for our industry if, the uptake of these rental bidding apps is high? And even she sort of came to the conclusion that it's a bit icky because it kind of makes whoever is taking the property just a little bit faceless, I guess. Not it's just a number, not a person. Which is probably something that, if you were going for that higher service model is not anyway.
That's what the property manager is there to do, isn't it? Is to be able to not only vet the appropriate rental income, but it's also the appropriateness of the tenant.
Yeah. Well, and everyone is saying now too that today's tenants are tomorrow's buyers.
It's very true.
So
way it would work is if you had a situation that you had a couple of tenants and that sort of stuff that were suitable, it'd be more of a situational thing rather than a lot of the time thing.
But what do you do? I mean, do you do the qualitative analysis and then you say, okay, well, in you go into the bidding arena, away you go, the best man wins?
Yeah, that's what the Andrews government are saying now in Victoria is no. They're saying categorically Amy Winehouse to rental bidding apps, no.
Well, it goes down but a tenant could be fantastic to start off with, and then 6 months later down the track go crazy.
Yeah.
We've had a situation, and the tenant went in and was picked as the best tenant, and then rented out for 6 months, paid the rent on time, everything fantastic, and then the situation changed, and they started falling behind more and more and more, and well then in the end they got so far behind we had to unfortunately kick them out. But it's that sort of thing, like you pick a great one at the start, but then things change. So if they do bid and then they pay more than what they can because they really want this property, and then they can't afford it, so who really benefits out of it?
Yeah.
No one.
Yeah.
maybe the rental bidding app. Because
Well,
I think
that, I mean, you know, but
it's
probably
a big data grab in my eyes, isn't it? You know, so if it's a free and open system, someone's got to be benefiting. Nothing's free.
Yeah, I've said this a few times on this podcast. If the product's free, you are the product. Also in news this week, on Saturday or Sunday last weekend, there was someone who'd actually listed their place with Purplebricks, didn't pay them the money up front, but took the, you know, because Purplebricks will bill you up front when they list your property, and then they give you an option to finance it. So she took the finance option so that she could pay the marketing fee once the property was sold. Unfortunately, the property didn't sell, and so now she's still sort of stuck with a debt for marketing and a property on her hands.
And the listing fee.
Yeah. So I'm keen to know, have you guys seen much of Purplebricks in your areas?
We've seen a little bit of traction with Purplebricks in our area, and when I speak with vendors who have Purplebricks come to their home, and they go, what's different between you? They're less, they pay for the marketing and stuff. How I explain to them is they don't have the accountability as to what we as real estate agents have to deliver on our word, because we only earn money when we sell
When
your
you
home.
sell it, yeah.
Minus the marketing, obviously, but most agents, we subsidise a lot of that out of our own pocket because we have to be confident in delivering a good result. In the Western Sydney area, it's a very more blue-collar area. A lot of people who own their houses out there, the bottom line really counts to them. Being able to meet them halfway is something which we have to do a lot of time, which makes it a lot more that we have to be completely confident we can sell the home, because if we don't sell the home, we do potentially run into loss with marketing. We do charge marketing. Some agents actually don't. I'd say that 50% of the agents within our area don't even charge marketing anymore, and are just wearing it. And they're not just doing standard listings on realestate.com or anything. They're doing premium listings. They're doing good photography, floor plans, and everything. So, but they're subsidising that to win the business. But that means you have to be a better agent.
But I suppose the big difference is that, you know, sort of your commissions get paid on the sale of the property, not necessarily on the listing of the property.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have Purplebricks in the area, but we've got a couple other ones, like I think Buy My Place is one, and then we've got one or two other ones. One that's blue, I don't know what they're called. Even though we're regional, it's still a fairly quick moving area, with like about 40 days being the average days on market. But those other ones, they sit 3, 4, 5 months on the market. But then that comes back down to it's really teaching the vendor to pick the right agent, and then, because in the end it's always after price, it's also educating the vendor on price. In our area, well, it's that overquoting to get the listing, and then you work with the vendor to get that price down to get it sellable. And most of the properties that are priced right from the start is where it sells.
The way to go.
And that's probably where the if you go through your Purplebricks, the vendor does have more of a say on where they list, and that's probably why they're staying on the market for longer, because they probably think their property's worth more than what it is.
When I sit there with vendors and have that conversation, and unfortunately it is coming up a little bit more regularly than I would like, I explain it to them. I go, look, if you were the Purplebricks agent or anyone, and someone was to give you $6,000 to $8,000 up front and go, hey, sell my home, and you're not going to get any more return after selling the home, will you have as much motivation as the agent, which only really makes a return after selling their home? I asked them that question, and 9 times out of 10 the answer is, well, probably not.
Yeah, because there's no skin in the game then. Yeah.
And mind you, something which I can say, every time we've gone up against a Purplebricks agent, they've never got the listing. So I do believe that the agents who are working at genuine real estate agents are still the better agents than these Purplebricks people.
It comes down to getting listings is now hard enough with so much competition out there. It's then you really want to make sure that you do also set up a listing properly that you can sell it in the end as well, rather than have it sit there. It makes the good agents really rise above the rest, because they know their market better than the rest, and they're teaching their vendors and educating their vendors on what's best for them and their property. And sometimes it is not the massive marketing campaign, sometimes it's just the simple stuff.
Yeah.
But sometimes it is that you have to go up and above with the marketing and get a bit creative as well. And just by going stock standard Purplebricks, or even just some agents out there and that just do the basic things, but sometimes just the basic works. Look at McDonald's, they haven't changed for how many years?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
They just add little bits to it, test how it works for a couple of months, and then take it away. So
What is it you say, Sammy? Everything's
Everything's
a
a
test.
test till it's not. Yep. There we go. There's two.
You're on fire.
Yeah, and I just want to add, if he's the king of Mildura, you're the king of marketing, right? So I think you know where it's at. We've seen some of your videos; they're pretty good.
Thank you. I think I love, for me, I just love telling stories. And that's why I love real estate so much, is you're able to tell a story about a home which has had so much life and happiness in it, so much. And I believe that's why I love videos, and I love guys like Gavin and Josh and Marty Fox now and his team. They tell these stories in the property, and I think it's absolutely amazing, and it just takes what we do to a new level. It just makes it so much more funner. I love it.
Yeah, it is. It is a trend. It's a trend that we sort of continually heard about at Inman this year. Is that you've got to start telling more of the stories about the people, the neighbourhood, the schools, like what happened, history, like all that sort of stuff. They've even got, wait till we get them here. There'll be some storytelling coaches here, within about 6 months, I reckon, because I met 2 of them over in America, actual storytelling consultants. Wait for it. You heard it here first.
Can't wait to meet them.
You don't need them, Michael. You're fine. So just wrapping up the week, there's a couple more things that we were sort of talking about this week. One was cyber safety. So it was Stay Safe Online week this week.
Yeah, so 9th to 13th of October was the government's declared as the Stay Safe Online week. It was quite an interesting one because we had Craig Templeton from REA Group come in.
He's a cool guy.
Yeah,
cool,
yeah.
One of those cool, nerdy, sort of techie kind of.
Yeah, he demystified a couple of things for us, didn't he?
Well, he did. So, when you think about a hacker, you two young,
dark, shady,
happening,
fantastic
technological,
people. Yeah, we know.
fantastic people. So when you think about the definition of a hacker, what does a hacker look like to you?
Mark Zuckerberg, yeah.
Yeah.
I would picture Mark Zuckerberg or just some little dweeby fella in his corner kind of sitting there just going nuts.
See, that's the problem.
The guy in the hoodie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see, I've seen a million bad stock photos too, and I sort of always think, it's that dark type in the hoodie, this hunched over the computer. When, in actual fact, you've got to think of hackers as business people like us who actually employ people and have the same sort of business issues that all of us do, and they're in business to make a profit. So they actually sort of, funnily enough, look like you and me too. I mean, not exactly like you and me, probably, because I look too nice. I look like a nice person, not like a hacker. But
yeah, well, I had friends in high school that liked to hack into the computer system at school and stole tests and that sort of stuff. And
oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought that only happened on
No,
TV shows.
That happened. And then my friend
games.
now works for a cyber security company, so it's a massive thing, and it's a massive corporation. He goes in to big companies and they check their security, but part of their job as well is to hack into the company's system. So it's like a two-way thing.
To test.
To test, yeah. So
Yeah.
they protect the system, plus they try to break the system at the same time.
Yeah, it was interesting. Craig actually said on a couple of on an example was that they had a hackathon or a hack fest in that one guy did it so well. The company actually hired him to be one of their security advisors as to how to shore up their defences. But it was a really interesting week. We had 5 days of Craig giving us some various different tips and tricks. Well, not tricks really, but just basic tips to be able to protect yourself and your business, all the way from passphrases and privacy awareness, network and security, and also the important one of the backups.
The number one issue that real estate principals have as far as cybersecurity goes, or the one thing that they're most worried about, is actually on the privacy side. So if you think about, the amount of personal information that you guys would hold, when you're talking to someone and, how many kids do you have, how old are
What's your
they,
birthday?
What's your birthday, all that sort of thing. And then you think about the number of people that leave your organisation or that may leave your organisation over time who still may have access to your systems. And, Craig was saying that's the number one concern out there, and obviously the thing that you need to make sure is that when someone leaves that you actually do sort of turn off their access and make sure that they can't access your Facebook page anymore. And I mean, you know, I think it's less of a worry these days about people stealing your data, because if you don't have a relationship right, there's no point in having data. But you know, there is a market for data.
Absolutely, because you think about when somebody is trying to fake your identity, you think about our industry. We're trying to collect as much personal information as we possibly can to be able to build a relationship with our prospects over the course of, you know, sort of the life or the term that we're actually talking to them.
Plus also the way our business is, we're very much out there constantly and give everything away. I think our telephone number is the easiest to get. You just have to Google our name.
Yeah, absolutely.
So true.
Yeah.
So we build up quite an interesting dossier of information about our clients.
Interesting on that too, because I mean, it's not hard to find me at all. If you really wanted to know who the editor of Elite Agent was, I'm, you know, pretty easy to track down. And the other day I actually had a call from someone who was pretending to be from the tax office. Like, you know, so which is a big scheme at the moment too. So it's not just awareness of, like, I actually thought I was really good in that, you know, like, I'm really used to sort of seeing those emails from the king of Nigeria, like, you know, who's wanting to marry me or whatever it is, and, you know, I have to keep telling him I'm already married. Thanks anyway. Like, I'm
just
really,
hold this couple of $1,000,000 for me.
Yeah,
I'll be back soon.
Look, I've got this spare change that I can send to you in the meantime. But yeah, so I actually thought I was pretty clever until I got this phone call or this message that actually sounded real, and then, you know, John Knight from Business Depot kind of set me straight. So, you know, you actually have to, you know, like with our phone numbers and stuff out there like they are.
And it wasn't a hidden number. It was like sort of it was a well displayed number, and they gave you callback options. And
I had that call as well, and then I sort of wasn't, because he was asking for information. I hadn't seen anything. He's like, "Yep, we've sent the mail to your letterbox," and I was like, "Which one did you send it to?" And then he found out my old address, which I hadn't lived in for 2 years, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I haven't lived there for a while." And then he's like, "Oh, well, that must be why you haven't received the messages." And then he started talking about the IRS, and I was like, "Wait, isn't the IRS American?" And that's where I sort of like I caught on more.
Yeah.
I wanted,
But if it would have been, and this is this fishing sort of business, that if he'd sort of gone, like if he'd gone one step further and said, "Well, what's your new address?" and you hadn't sort of twigged to it, then you would probably you know, hand over the new address, and then all of a sudden they have your phone number and where you live, and then it's really easy to sort of go from there. It's frightening. So
check out the 5 videos that were put out there. It's some good content on there, and some checklists as well. Yeah,
good checklist. So that's something to look out for during the week. Next week, last but not least, we did a bit of a teaser on our new magazine. So, you know, like, obviously most of you have probably seen the cover now, which sort of looks a bit like Suits. You know, the young guns.
Suits inspired, yeah.
Suits inspired, yeah. The young guns from the agency, although I'm not a fan. I'm saying all these words that I don't like today. I'm not a fan of young guns. They're young talent. Like, you know, they're talent. They're not guns. I think that's a bit.
They're not quite that good yet.
Oh no, actually, these.
I don't like the word. I just think it's a bit naff. Like, you know, it's just like you know, like everyone uses that word. But yeah, so Century 21 are doing some creative things, and apart from, you know, giving everyone a sneak preview of the agency, we did give everyone a bit of a preview of what C21 are doing. So Charles Tarby, the innovator, we actually sat down and talked to him and said, you know, like, what are you doing over the next, you know, 12 months? Yeah, it was pretty interesting. So first of all, you know, like, they talked about they actually run their own internal CRM system called eSales. So they're actually making that mobile, and they're sort of expanding that so that agents can have their own website and all the rest of it, which is actually really forward thinking. Like, I remember, you know, like, a lot of franchises actually don't like their salespeople having personal websites, but, you know, like, I do remember reading this book that sort of said, in the future, to get control, give it up. And you know, like, I think it's almost a case of that, where it's like, well, you know, like, people are going to do it with or without your permission anyway, because a lot of the coaches are sort of saying this is what you should do.
Yeah, I think obviously what they're doing is, you know, sort of is resonating well with the businesses. I mean, they said that a number of the franchises have re-signed with the group as well. So I think what they're doing is resonating well within the group itself. Yeah,
and then so they're probably the first franchise, I think, to use Facebook Workplace. Have you guys come across Facebook Workplace?
I haven't used it, no.
Yeah, so it's like Facebook. It's like a big Facebook group with no ads, and it's for companies. So you can actually remember how we had that closed group for Transform. Well, I guess the best way I can describe it is it's like that, but it's like sort of very tightly secured, and only if you're a member of, Century 21 globally. But what this has done is, because Century 21, it's a reasonable size here, but it's actually massive overseas.
Well, we've got 3,000 offices here or 3,000 agents.
Yeah.
In Asia-Pac region, so other agents or offices.
Yeah.
But so globally, it's absolutely enormous.
North America's huge, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
The other innovative thing they're doing, On the House is back. onthehouse.com.au is kind of back.
The phoenix has risen.
Well, it never really went away, but so I saw this thing that Century 21 are doing, and it's to do with On the House. So like it will take the listing from On the House and boost it directly on Facebook. Like, so the On the House listing is free, but then it'll create the ad for you and then just sort of boost it on Facebook.
It's almost the portal for the socials.
Yeah, which is, again, pretty interesting. So how are you guys using Facebook for listings right now?
We do a lot of different stuff. At the moment, Elders Corporate is running a promotion where if you get an appraisal, and it's actually finishing up now at the end of October, you get if you go into the draw to win a $15,000 holiday experience. That's sort of just a big branding sort of thing that everybody would do. But personally, to get listings, I've been running different Facebook ads, but more sort of just content-based, more sort of giving out information, so not really running specific to get listing ads. But I've been getting really good traction from my listing sales, because I've sort of developed a system around that where I've bought this advertising program where if you leave a comment, it automatically instantly messages them, and it gives them automatically all the information. And with that, I don't give away price or location on Facebook, so they have to leave a comment, and I capture those people and then straight away can start chatting to them on Facebook, so they never have to leave the platform, rather than sending to another page. So it just keeps it all in key, and it's very low risk for them. They just leave a comment and that's it. They just see that they've commented on it, and that's about it.
I suppose you can chat to them anywhere, anytime, when you're on the road, between opens, between clearance sales.
No, don't talk in clearing sales. Clearing sales, my phone gets given to somebody else and they answer the phone for me. And then we have to change it. But no, Facebook's been absolutely fantastic for me since I moved up there. I got my face out there so quickly, because when I moved up to Mildura, I knew 7 people. Yeah. I knew my girlfriend, her 4 sisters, and her parents, and that was it. I didn't know anybody else. And for what I've done, I've spent so much money on Facebook that but I've recouped that all anyway, because it's been so worth it.
Yeah, because you only sort of need to get one more listing, or like the ROI of some of the things that you do in marketing and real estate is pretty insane. Like it takes you're working numbers of 1, right? One boost or one blog post or one video or one.
Yeah. I think for me, is one of the actually big things I took out of our transform process was from Steve Carroll, was that your online presence is your new business card, and that's just not your website, that's your social media. I'm pretty big and I focus very strongly on social media, so Facebook and Instagram and other platforms, but I don't just focus to the vendor, I focus to the community. The reason being is the 16, 18, 20-year-old person to the 50, 70-year-old person have the same influence as anyone else. The reason being is they have a mum, they have a father, they have a grandmother, they have an auntie, they have an uncle, they have someone who's looking to sell, and I'm finding that I'm becoming more of an attraction agent business through my social media. I've actually had listings come to me which were just signed on the dot, top commission, from friends, brothers who saw it, who told their boss at work, for example, that is, I'm thinking of some house, well, you should go speak to Michael here, check out his Facebook, all those videos are great. Oh, you should definitely go with him, what's his number? So I find that...
And you haven't had to wrestle a shark.
I haven't had to wrestle no sharks at all, which is great.
So, that's the big thing. I ask people, well, where did you see me? And they're like, oh, we see your videos all the time. I'm like, fantastic. And you're just getting called up for those reasons, because I was at that time the only one doing it. Now other people are doing what I'm doing. But again, it's just always been that step ahead.
And where do we see agent in the car? Is it hashtag agent in the car?
Hashtag agent in the car. I'm starting to do, and because I'm now putting them on Instagram as well, they now turn into 60-second tips as well. So pushing that all together.
Well, see, again, that's what we're seeing is that, sort of it's adding value back into the community. Yeah. It's not necessarily about just pushing the property. Good works.
I think we'll leave it on that note. We're so proud of you guys. You've done so well Thank you so much for coming in to help us get
guys.
through the news.
Check us out on Facebook.
We'll leave the links to both Michael and Lucas in the show notes as usual. Thank you again, Mark. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks, Sam. As I say, it is always a pleasure too.
Yeah, just say that.
I do.
Lucas, Michael, thank you for coming in.
Thanks, guys, for having
Thank
us.
you so
It's a
much
pleasure.
for having us.
Cheers.
See you all next week.
To subscribe to the magazine, visit eliteagent.com.au/subscribe.